Hey guys, this is Tony Paradis. I'm a licensed dietitian and personal trainer, owner of Food and Fitness, and I'm here today with Erica Rivers of Forte Counseling. And it's just really great to have her because we're going to ask her a bunch of questions about counseling and how it can benefit you, a little bit about her and how the nutrition fitness tie-in work with them, and of course at the end we'll give you a little plug for your business. And because she's actually my next door neighbor and has we've cross-referred to each other, and she's just a really great person to have in your network. So let's begin. First of all, Erica, what are your qualifications as a counselor?
Well, I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas, and I've been counseling since 2003. I have a master's degree in counseling and basically love people, so I think that qualifies me pretty well.
All right, so you love people and definitely got the experience and the credentials. But what first got you interested in counseling?
Well, my background is actually in exercise science, and so I was working at a rehab clinic, and I was helping people physically get better, but I wanted to help them more at the mental, emotional, and spiritual level. And so I then went to Dallas Theological Seminary, where I went through their counseling program, and then started on the counseling route.
Awesome. So you have the theological tie-in, the physical tie-in, and of course the professional counseling tie-in.
Correct.
That makes you very unique.
Very unique, yeah.
Are there a lot of other counselors in the area that have all three of those? I've never seen any.
There are a couple here and there, but it's a really rare combo to have the personal training certification and the counseling and the biblical tie-in there.
Awesome. It's all about angles. Okay, so what are some benefits that someone might receive from counseling?
Well, there's a lot because, we're addressing pretty much everything. So if people are looking at their goals, it's how do you get there and how are you blocking yourself from that? So I liken it to holding up a mirror and saying, what do we see here? How do you overcome the obstacles to getting where you want to go?
Okay, so a lot of times people, they're aware of their goals. What if they're not aware of their goals?
And a lot of people aren't, actually. I think that's a pretty common thing. Well, we sit down and we explore them. Sometimes people have a lot of baggage they're carrying with them, a lot of things that they've dealt with for years and years, hurts, pains, anger that they're carrying. And so it doesn't allow them to think clearly toward their goals, and sometimes they just need to get unstuck first, and then they can kind of start looking for the future.
Sounds like quite a journey. So what are some of the most common misconceptions about counseling? And I'm sure there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
Probably some that come to mind right now.
Oh, yeah. Well, a lot of people are very fearful of counseling.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and they see all these mental health things, and all these mental health movies, and there's a lot out there where, like, I don't want to be crazy. I don't want to be labeled crazy.
So, yeah, if I go see a counselor, now I'm a lunatic.
Yes,
crazy.
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And they're going to sit on the couch and have, like, the Freudian experience, So it's definitely a challenge to overcome some of those things and the fear. But I think once they sit down in there and they realize I'm a real person, they're not necessarily crazy. I think we're all crazy in some ways. I kind of love that country song, God is great, beer is good, and people are crazy.
3 true things.
Right. But it's looking through and going, okay, how are you human, and how do you look through the issues that are keeping you stuck, and just kind of getting real with it, and then overcoming some of those barriers and getting healthy. Like, I love that word, healthy.
Yeah.
It's not just avoiding the bad and moving away from things that aren't good for us. It's going, how do we move toward what healthy really is, whether that's from a spiritual angle, nutritional angle, physical angle, social angle, you name it. It's how do we move toward healthy.
Awesome. Sounds very complete, very well-rounded. Let's move on. Let's go on to what are some other counselors' theories and information sources that you like to follow?
Well, in counseling we study all these different theories and all these people who have, done great things in the field of counseling.
Sure, you talked about Freud and the couch earlier. You said that's not your style.
Right. Psychoanalysis. it's funny because you study these theories,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of boils down to an eclectic arrangement of what works in the counseling setting. And so, cognitive behavioral is a really big
Mm-hmm.
thing. We use that a lot. But I would definitely compartmentalize myself as eclectic.
Eclectic.
And especially, my greatest tool is biblical counseling. I love that because it gives us a standard of truth to work from. Obviously, if someone's coming from a Buddhist or Hindu angle, we welcome them with open arms and love on them and just hear them and meet them where they're at. We're not trying to, change people in that sense.
Sure.
But it's finding that what each person needs to move forward and head toward their goals. Looking at them and demonstrating unconditional positive regard, which is one of the things that a great theorist in the past have said.
You pull from a lot of different people. And,
Yes.
I always tell people in regards to nutrition, they're like, well, should I cut out carbohydrates? Should I, only eat plants or whatever? The answer often lies somewhere in the middle. And it takes a good counselor, a good therapist to be able to take all the good from every area and pull that into their practice. So that's really awesome. I follow along the same vein from there. Okay. Now, a lot of you guys are watching this. You may need a counselor. You may that first step is the hardest step. So what would you say to somebody who is having trouble justifying hiring a counselor? So there's a lot of misconceptions about, kind of feeling crazy or something like that. But, if you could say a few words to somebody, what would you say if they're just having trouble justifying it?
Well, it depends how badly they want to get unstuck. I find that it's great to have a team of people helping you with what you need. And sometimes it takes a few counselors to find the right fit for you. But once you start counseling, it doesn't mean that you're going to be in counseling forever. In fact,
That's a very good point.
yeah, it should be a temporary thing to help you get over the hurdle. And sometimes that can be as short as like 5 sessions, a couple months. Some people need longer, depending if they've had some serious trauma in the past. But it's finding what each person needs and how badly do you want to get better. Getting the help you need.
If you want it bad enough, why not give her a shot? Give it a try. Wayne Gretzky says you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And if you never take that first step, then you're always going to be thinking about it. So that's a very good point. All right, so what are some common psychological issues you see with emotional eaters? So we're kind of turning the gears a little bit here and getting a little bit more toward nutrition, because that's what I do. So emotional eaters, common issues or common repeating things. Tell us.
Well, I think there's a lot of emotional issues that play into eating. I think we can all relate with that. And food many times feeds a hole in the heart.
Yeah, agreed.
So sometimes depression, anxiety. When people don't have other places to go, sometimes they'll turn to food to fill that inside need.
Kind of that endorphin feeling effect that you get from eating comfort foods.
Yeah, the comfort food, classic comfort food. So looking at that and going, okay, what emotional elements are going into this? Is it loneliness? Sometimes. Or boredom. Boredom's a big one, too.
I hear that one a lot. I eat because I'm bored.
Yeah. And how do we look at other things to help you get unbored? How do you find more fulfillment in your life from areas that are healthy for you versus trying to feed it with food?
So that's a very interesting point you bring up, because oftentimes when I'm counseling somebody, I'm boredom eating, I'm emotional eating, and the angle that I take is say, okay, if you're going to eat, let's make some wiser choices. Let's try to reduce the physiological or the impact that has on the body, whereas the angle that you take is going to be more, how can we address why are you making those choices, and how can we channel those feelings and emotions to be a more positive thing?
Yeah, basically, again, not just avoiding the bads and not just avoiding the bad foods, but also moving toward how do you make your life rich in other areas. So it takes away some of the power from food, because, when we start thinking about it, and, it could be food, it could be alcohol, it could be anything that's a driving force for us. And it's not just how do we avoid that, but it's how do we make our life rich in these other areas.
Yeah. It's pretty hard to avoid food because eventually you're going to need some. So
it's true. Food is good, right?
Food is good. Okay. let's move on. What advice would you give somebody that lacks confidence in their self-image? So a lot of times it's kind of a secondary thing for people seeing me about, do you want to get healthy? Yeah, I want strong bones. I want to live past 60. But, I mean, let's be real, folks. We're here for vanity a lot of the times. We're here to improve, maybe vanity is not the right word, but improve that body confidence. So, what advice would you give somebody that just has a low body confidence?
Well, I do think there's a lot of practical things we can do. Obviously, when you start a workout program, it's amazing how people build that confidence. It is. It's such a tie-in with mood, because not only are you getting the physical benefits of the endorphins and whatnot, but you start seeing changes in the mirror. But also addressing some of those heart issues and the social issues, and there's a lot to our image of ourselves. There's a lot that plays in with that. From a spiritual angle, we even look into your identity in Christ and how people relate with God, and even looking at past issues with parents and family and friends, and going, okay, what hurts have you taken with you that have influenced how you view yourself? And so it's kind of going, how do we break some of the chains that have held you back and start liking who you are, liking who you've been made to be, and then working again toward those goals. And
so you really take the trifecta approach, where mind, body, and spirit. And it's not just one quick fix that, if I lose these inches or fit in this dress size, that now I'm automatically just going to love myself and feel really confident. You got to address some of those other things and be able to move on from there.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, I'm glad I hit that one on the head.
That's big.
I really like what Erica's having to say here with us today. Okay, let's talk a little bit about, how does the emotional aspect tie into the nutrition and exercise component for people? So you kind of touched on that a little bit, how some people might be, emotional eaters. They might eat because they're, not really feeling too good, or they're bored or something like that. But maybe some of the positive benefits
Of working all three together. Well, I find that when you address a problem from all angles, you have a better chance of hitting it. So it's, again, the trifecta.
Combining forces.
Yes. And looking at it, like, if you deal with some of the inside issues, it really helps with the outside issues. And they found even tie-ins with, like, your emotions and pain. Like, I found that when I worked in pain management, people who were very angry had higher levels of pain and a perception of pain. And so if you deal with those emotional elements, it affects the physical. And they're doing a lot with nutrition now and mental health. And so I think this is a big thing that I'm excited with working with you for.
Yeah, she was just talking about this before we got started. So sorry we didn't get that on camera, but you're talking about depression and how nutrition and a healthy gut can affect that.
Yep, anxiety, big time, like probiotics. They're doing more and more research on how a good gut flora influences your mental health. And so it's even, those tie-ins play in so much. So if you can take someone with depression and give them an exercise program and address some of the nutritional elements, and then deal with the emotional and spiritual, it's huge.
There you go. Now, maybe stop taking some of that medication, start addressing your things in a more natural way, and really seeing those results. Correct me if I'm wrong, but oftentimes, in order for a physician to treat depression or maybe stress or even sleeplessness, they often turn to exercise as a way to help with that.
Love that, yeah. And I love it when the medical community will encourage a person with some of these more natural routes. I'm all for medication in its right place. But I think it's way
Sometimes
overused.
It's needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And there shouldn't be shame in that. It has its place. But if someone is terribly unhealthy in these other areas and not getting the nutrients, the minerals they need, not moving at all, they're going to be depressed. There's things that play in.
Another thing that you touched on earlier, you said, you may not need a counselor forever. Maybe a great starting point. Oftentimes, as people come to me taking maybe insulin medication or blood pressure, and the same thing is, you may not need medication forever.
Right.
When it comes to your diet or things that are going to help your heart health and your blood sugar and all that. Could the same be true for mental issues?
Yeah, and it should be that at times in our lives we gather people around us who can help us move forward, but it doesn't mean they're a permanent fixture in our lives. And sometimes we need different counselors. So I've gone to my own counseling, and that's been really helpful. And I've needed different counselors for different things, and I take a little.
She practices what she preaches.
I do. Had personal trainers too, and that's been great. So it's finding what we need at that moment to get over the hurdles.
Erica, how could an emotional eater benefit from working with a dietitian? Now, I know you've referred some clients to me before, but let's just hear it from your words.
I find that it gives them structure. A lot of times they hear these wild diets out there, and they're like, well, I'm going to do this, and they get gung-ho about it, and so it's like kind of self-sabotaging because they're so extreme. And I find that working with a dietitian really kind of brings them back down to earth and finds a very practical way to get to where they want to go without torturing themselves. So.
Along the same vein, how could that same person benefit from working with a personal trainer or beginning an exercise program?
Well, again, there's a lot of myths out there, there's a lot of misconceptions about how to do an exercise program, and they'll watch these shows, which are very inspiring, but they're very extreme. And so it's really good to have an exercise program that's tailored to each individual, and that's going to get you there faster. So it's being efficient in your exercise program. It's
all about being efficient. And I didn't have this question prepared, but I got to ask because, you said there's some crazy diets out there, some crazy workout programs out there. I'm sure there's some crazy self-help books out there, or maybe some psychology things. I mean, is that something you see sometimes as well, or?
And they have their value.
Sure.
There's things that if they inspire
obligatory,
us.
They have their value, right?
Right. Some do. Sometimes
do.
I'll refer people to them. But yeah, it's the biggest section in a lot of bookstores.
It's
the self-help section. That I think, from a spiritual, biblical angle, it's going to be, for me, my top priority especially working with a Christian client is going, okay, what does God's Word say in this, and what is true in that, and breaking that down. I find that's the ultimate book for help there. But there's some other things as far as getting your life in balance, from any angle, a secular angle. It's looking at how do you balance out your life and get your priorities in order. Like, value the people that you really care about and have a healthy relationship. Again, moving toward healthy.
Yeah. All right, some really great points there. Okay, let's talk about, in your practice and what you do, with HIPAA and all that kind of stuff, you can't bring up, specifics or anything, but what's one of the most meaningful experiences you've had as a counselor so far? And, I know, dropping the heavy questions now. Is there any one specific client that you've worked with, or just maybe a feeling that you get from it? Could you?
Well, I don't know that I could go to a specific client, but I definitely have found that it's really neat to work with someone who wouldn't normally go to counseling. Someone who is like, I don't want to open up to a total stranger, but who's kind of come from a very stuck place, a very closed down and shut down place, and who's started to trust and learned that, okay, counseling can actually be fun and good sometimes.
Sometimes your most rewarding clients can be the ones that almost didn't make it in the first place.
Right, totally.
Wow.
Absolutely. And, you get the tall, 6'5" macho guy, and he's like, and moving forward is just a really neat thing. And where they discover, I have these emotions too. They're locked in sometimes, but being able to express yourself and kind of get what's on the inside out is
just kind of start getting under the layers and
peeling them back. And people are so
like an onion.
Yes, onions. That's right, but less stinky sometimes.
All right, Erica, I know you guys are watching this at home and you're thinking, how can I get in touch with Erica? How can I start making progress in my life? How could someone who's interested in a counseling program, how can they get in touch with you? You have a website?
Yes, we do. It's www.fortecounselingcenter.com.
And we'll put that down in the links in the info box so you guys can click on that. It's going to have her contact information on there. It's going to have more information about what she does and how to get in touch with her. And if you miss any of the details about her approach to counseling as well, which is a very great one. Erica, you walk the walk, you talk the talk, you help people, she gets results. But do you have any final words or thoughts that you'd like to leave us with today before we let you go?
Well, I would just encourage people to seek help if they need help. If you're in a stuck spot, maybe that's with nutrition, get a dietitian. If you're if you're in an unhealthy place and you get tired going up the stairs, get a personal trainer. If you are tired of fighting in your marriage, get a counselor. If you are tired of feeling bummed and sad and bored, get a counselor. And so it's looking at these issues and finding ways to not just keep trying to struggle all by yourself, but to get help.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you for taking the time to come to us today to explain to us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about counseling, and how counseling can help you. I'm Tony Paradis with Food and Fitness. I'm a licensed dietitian and personal trainer. You can check out my website at foodandfitnessonline.com, which I'll also link below. Guys, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up, give us a like, give us an upvote. If you like good nutrition, if you like good mental being, leave us a comment, let us know what you think, and we'll catch you later. Thanks a lot, Erica. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
And we'll catch you guys later. Thanks.